Thanks a lot. Matthew Lee, Inner City Press, on behalf of the Free UN Coalition for Access. Thanks for the briefing. I wanted to ask about the two countries you said which the sentences to death increased, Nigeria and Egypt. And I wondered whether, I know that you don't consider executions or killings by like Islamic State and Boko Haram in your statistics, but do you think that these very public, sort of pseudo-judicial executions, for example, by IS under Sharia, do you think that this in fact gives rise to actual states committing executions or death sentences in the case of Nigeria in response? And what do you think can be done to sort of distinguish the two? And also, on Egypt, because yesterday it was announced that the U.S. is now releasing jets, F-16 jets, Harpoon missiles, and tanks to Egypt, do you think not only they were delayed maybe on democracy grounds, but given the rise in death sentences, what does Amnesty think of that decision to release those weapons? Thanks.
Well, let me start by again trying to answer Matthew's questions, which are very relevant and also difficult. Well, as we said, the trend is that states are using the death penalty as a response to real or perceived threats. They could be common crime, organized crime, terrorism-related crimes, and others. We don't think that that's the solution to the problem. They should better work on improving their judicial systems, their investigatory methods, and providing real justice to the victims. We don't, as I said, in the report we only cover judicial executions. We don't cover arbitrary killings or executions by armed groups or other groups. Although we of course cover them in our global monitoring of the human rights situation in the world, and we denounce every time that these groups commit these crimes, which in situations of armed conflicts are clearly war crimes. So the fact that they are not covered here doesn't mean that it's not a concern of us, and of course it's a grave concern of us. But as you know, Amnesty has a long tradition of dealing with the death penalty as a state-sanctioned killing that we believe violates the right to life and the right to be free from cruel, inhuman, and degraded treatment and punishment. So, yeah, on Egypt, two things. One thing is that in Nigeria, according to the colleagues producing the report, we have had this year better information than previous years, meaning that the state has been more cooperative with us in terms of providing us information, and that could be one of the reasons why we could provide this year higher numbers. But it's also due to the fact that they, because of the threat of Boko Haram and others, they consider that increasing the level of executions would help deal with the problem, which again we don't believe is the solution. In terms of Egypt and the decision yesterday by the US administration, I'm sorry, I don't have a concrete comment on that at this point. We believe that all states should express concern on the situation of the death penalty in Egypt, because it's not just about, as I said in my presentation, it's not just about the numbers, it's also about the violations of international law by not providing the people accused with fair trials and using evidence that might be contaminated by practices that are against the law as well. So it's a big concern of us, and we will continue advocating for a change in this trend.